Hazumi, a young woman living in the bustling heart of Tokyo, was homesick for her small rural hometown in the countryside. It had been years since she had visited her family, and the weight of homesickness had become too much to bear. One warm summer evening, Hazumi decided to embark on a journey to her hometown, deep in the Japanese countryside. The journey was supposed to be simple. All she had to do was board a night train, and by morning she would be in her hometown once again. The only stop on the way was a station called Kisaragi. As Hazumi made her way to the train station, her heart swelled with anticipation. It had been far too long since she had seen her family and the familiar sights of her hometown. The train platform was filled with the usual crowd of commuters, all wrapped up in their own worlds, seemingly unaware of the momentous occasion this journey represented for Hazumi. The train itself was sleek and modern, a stark contrast to the nostalgia and charm of her hometown. Hazumi found her seat by the window and settled in. She couldn't help but wonder about the peculiar name of the station she was about to visit. Kisaragi sounded unusual, even for a small countryside station. The train set off on its journey. The soft hum of the engine and the rhythmic clacking of wheels on the tracks soon lulled Hazumi into a sense of calm. She closed her eyes, envisioning the warm embrace of her family waiting for her at the station, and drifted off to sleep. Hazumi's slumber was fitful, filled with strange and unsettling dreams. She dreamt of a desolate, fog-covered station, where a figure in a tattered conductor's uniform beckoned her to leave the train. When she awoke, it was with a start, and she realized that the train had come to a sudden, unexplained stop. Disoriented, Hazumi glanced out of the window, expecting to see the familiar station signs that would indicate her approach to her hometown. But what she saw was something entirely different. The platform was empty and bathed in a surreal, silver moonlight. The name on the signboard read, Kisaragi. Confusion and fear gnawed at Hazumi as she disembarked from the train. She was the only passenger to exit, and as she looked around, she felt an eerie emptiness in the air. There were no sounds of life, no distant chatter, just an overwhelming silence that seemed to swallow the station whole. Dread crept into Hazumi's heart as she approached the station agent's booth. The station agent himself was an elderly man with clouded eyes who seemed lost in his own thoughts. When Hazumi asked for her next train, the agent simply handed her a ticket with the word Kisaragi printed on it in stark black ink. There were no other details, no departure time, and no return destination. Hazumi paid the fare, her voice trembling, and the agent's eerie smile sent chills down her spine.
"May your journey be enlightening,"
he whispered as she left the booth. With her ticket in hand, Hazumi waited on the empty platform for the next train. The minutes stretched into hours, and as she looked around the deserted station, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Kisaragi Station, it seemed, did not exist in the world. As the night deepened, Hazumi's unease turned to unease, and the station took on an otherworldly quality. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, and strange whispered voices filled the air. Hazumi couldn't make out the words, but they sounded like pleas, like cries for help. Just when she thought she couldn't bear the silence any longer, the distant sound of a train approaching reached her ears. Relief flooded through her, and she stepped closer to the edge of the platform, watching the approaching locomotive. The train was unlike any she had seen before, old and decrepit, its cars shrouded in darkness. The train's doors creaked open, and Hazumi hesitated, but the sense of relief and the mysterious ticket in her hand compelled her to board. As she stepped inside, the musty smell of old leather and dampness filled her nostrils. The interior of the train was dimly lit, with seats that seemed to stretch on forever into the darkness. Hazumi found an empty seat by the window and settled in. The train departed Kisaragi Station, and as it did, the sense of wrongness only intensified. The shadows on the window seemed to take on a life of their own, swirling and coalescing into strange, indistinct shapes. As the train rumbled on, Hazumi was struck by the sensation that she was not alone. Though she was the only passenger in her carriage, the windows revealed eerie, ghostly figures standing on the platform of Kisaragi station. Their faces were twisted in expressions of pain and despair, and their hollow eyes followed the train as if pleading for something she couldn't comprehend. She tried to ignore the unsettling sight, focusing on the faint murmurs of conversation coming from the other end of the carriage. It was impossible to make out the words, but they seemed to be filled with sorrow and regret. Time lost all meaning as Hazumi continued her journey on the ghostly train. She felt as though she were in a nightmarish dream, unable to wake up. The train seemed to go on forever, and she couldn't shake the sense that she was trapped in a never-ending loop of despair. The lost souls on the platform of Kisaragi station became more and more numerous, their tormented faces pressed against the windows as they watched the train pass. Their voices, though still indecipherable, seemed to grow louder, filling the carriage with an overwhelming sense of melancholy. Hazumi tried to move to a different carriage, hoping to escape the eerie figures and the oppressive atmosphere. But each compartment she entered was the same, empty, dimly lit, and filled with whispered voices that seemed to come from nowhere. At last, a dim light flickered at the far end of her carriage, growing gradually brighter. A figure materialized in the dim light, the train's conductor. He was a gaunt man, his face etched with lines of deep sorrow, and his eyes shone with an eerie, otherworldly light.
Tickets, please.
He murmured, extending a skeletal hand toward Hazumi. Hazumi fumbled for her ticket, her hands trembling as she handed it to the conductor. He examined it with a mournful expression, his eyes locked onto hers. She couldn't help but notice that his eyes bore the same expression as the lost souls on the platform of Kisaragi station.
You shouldn't be here.
He whispered, his voice a ghostly rasp. As he turned away and disappeared into the darkness of the train, Hazumi was left with a sense of foreboding that she couldn't shake. She was no longer certain of the reality of her situation, and it seemed as though the train was carrying her further and further away from the world she knew. As the train rumbled on, Hazumi's sense of time and space began to warp. The whispers in her mind grew louder, and she felt as though her very existence was unraveling. The train had become a nightmarish prison, and she was unable to escape. The train's windows revealed a nightmarish cityscape, skyscrapers twisted and contorted into grotesque shapes, and strange, otherworldly creatures roamed the streets. Their glowing eyes followed the train's path, malevolent and unblinking. Hazumi tried to escape, to find a way off the train, but the doors and windows remained sealed, as if they were conspiring to keep her trapped. She realized that she was not a passenger on a train, but a captive in a world of eternal torment. The voices of the lost souls and the conductor echoed in her mind, their stories of suffering and despair filling her thoughts. She knew now that she was not just an observer, but a part of their torment, forever bound to this wretched journey. Back in her hometown, Hazumi's family waited eagerly for her return. The hours turned into days, and then into weeks. They reached out to the authorities, but there was no record of Hazumi ever boarding a train to her hometown. The legend of Kisaragi, the Devouring station, persisted in the small town. The locals spoke in hushed tones about the girl who had vanished into the cursed station, never to return. They knew that Kisaragi was not a place one could escape from, that it was a station that devoured the souls of those who dared to board the train. The cursed station remained hidden in the shadows, waiting for the next curious soul to unlock its dark secrets. The agent, the conductor, and the lost souls continued their eternal journey, a nightmarish purgatory from which there was no escape. As the horrifying night train carried on through the spectral cityscape, it remained a chilling reminder of the price one paid for curiosity, a grim testament to the terrors that lurked in the darkest corners of the world. The legends of Kisaragi persisted, casting a shadow of dread over the hearts of those who dared to listen to its whispers in the dark. Hazumi's fate, like those who had come before her, was sealed within the enigmatic curse of Kisaragi, forever entwined with the devouring station in the realm of shadows.